Today, The Legend of Heroes Trails into Reverie was released, almost 3 years after its original release in Japan. I recently finished it and it left me with quite a lot to say about it, including some good things, some bad things, and some stuff I'm just not quite sure how I feel about. But as always, let's start this review with the positive. Trails into Reverie continues the saga, but now focusing on Crossbell once again. This is the city 2 games in the series took place in, Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure, both recently remastered for modern platforms. At last, the city is about to declare itself as an independent state, but things go south right at that moment. Rufus Alvarea mysteriously appears to steal the spotlight, mind control the citizens and defeat Lloyd Bannings and his party. Meanwhile, Rean Schwarzer has some unfinished business with his other self, but as he comes across the news of what happened in Crossbell, he'll try to reunite his allies to help in the cause of liberating the city. As always, this is an incredibly well-written plot, full of detail and strong development for some of the characters. Falcom used one last time the Fire engine at its best to produce the graphics here, which look fantastic. Yes, the series is very popular nowadays, but they're still not AAA games, so with that in mind, they did the best they could with the visuals. Music by the usual team led by Hayato Sonoda is incredible, and man, for some reason I found it really good. Tons of memorable themes here by the likes of Mitsuo Singa and Yukihiro Jindo. I'm not saying it's better than the previous Trails games, but it just did not disappoint me one bit, and I dare say I think it's becoming one of my favorites in the series. However, the true star of this turn-based RPG is its gameplay. It's extremely addictive and simply marvelous. I dare say it's almost the perfect fan service game. And I just don't mean fan service as in you know what type of fan service. In that area, as you can see, obviously it didn't let me down. The fact that you can play with characters like Risha just makes it worth your time. But that's not exactly what I meant. What I see with almost the perfect fan service game is that you get to play with nearly every single character across the entire Trails series. And it includes some new guys who joined for this particular release. If you're a big Trails fan like me, you'll absolutely love this. But first, let's discuss the ups. First of all, you'll be switching between 3 different protagonists and their parties. Lloyd Bannings, Rean Schwarzer, and a spoiler character known initially as C. What's awesome here is that their parties will be often joined by characters across the series. The writers really did a great job in diversifying the cast as cleverly as they could, so players could get to play with nearly everybody. Once you reach a roadblock or complete a chapter, you'll be forced to switch to either one of the other 2 protagonists. However, it's not always forced. You can switch to them at any time if you want to, but progressing with their stories could lead to one of those roadblocks. Exploration is a bit open, as in you can look around the areas, dungeons, and cities at your pace, but story-wise, it's a linear game like all of its predecessors, no different routes or endings here. Let's talk about the combat now, which is the epitome of the series. It's turn-based again with up to 4 active party members and 4 more, if available, to switch to at any time. Back are the links between 2 characters. They level up and unlock new passive abilities like counter-attacking, taking damage for your ally, auto-cure them of a status effect, etc. Back are also the orders. Every character can contribute in battle if they are in your active party, with something like a buff, for example, which is extremely useful. And using these orders does not consume a turn. However, to use orders you need to have brave points available. These are acquired by getting them randomly if you're lucky in the turn order, or as before, by getting critical attacks against your enemies or by consuming an item that recovers them. Yet another way to gain these points is by using a feature that's new to this game, the United Fronts. Similar to all-out attacks seen before in the series, you use the right trigger at the cost of the turn of one character you're controlling to execute an all-out attack by all characters, including the ones in the support roster, which can be with regular attacks, magic attacks, or healing spells. So the best thing you can do to abuse these battle mechanics is to start the battle, use an order to buff the party, use United Fronts, then a character special attack or various of them, and there you go, you have broken the game. How do you get points to use these United Fronts, you ask? Simply by attacking or receiving damage, but it's much faster when you're out exploring around, destroying things that give you those points that feed the bars used to execute them in battle. Just in case you're new to this series, real quick, the special attacks I mentioned are bound to craft points. They're used to execute regular skills and keep increasing the more you fight. When they reach 100, characters can execute their own special, but it's always best to increase them to their maximum amount, which is 200 for more effectiveness. And also, back are the ornaments, an equipment system where you can equip your characters with several different magic orbs that unlock special arts or increase some of their stats. Honestly, this is a fantastic combat, which evolved into perfection, contributing to a highly addictive experience. One of the best JRPG battle systems of all time in my opinion. Finally, let me talk about yet another exclusive feature of this game, the Reverie corridor. I won't spoil much, since this is a special dungeon that unlocks after several hours in the game. For the first couple of times though, you'll be forced to visit it to complete a floor, known as a stratum, fight formidable foes, and eventually a boss, all in order to train and level up. After that, it'll become completely optional. This is the dungeon that has all the side quests. You will find it hard to believe, I know, but I did every single one of them. I didn't exactly platinum this game and got all trophies since I don't really care for that, but I did almost everything there is to be done in this game, especially in this dungeon. Here you can talk to all the characters available up to that point, but also by defeating formidable foes, bosses, or even elite monsters, you get sealing stones. The silver ones will give you items, orbs, crafting materials, or even costumes. The red ones will unlock mini-games that you can play at any time you want. The blue stones are basically the side quests. I don't know if you played Trails in the Sky the third, but it works just like the doors in there. You get to experience scenes from different characters or groups of characters that occurred after Trails of Cold Steel 4, but before Trails into Reverie, in between both games. Some actually include missions with battles, others are just reading and watching scenes. Most of them are very interesting, rich with character development, so I strongly suggest you check out as many as you can. Finally, the gold stones unlock characters that will only join your party for the Reverie corridor, not in the story or, well, the real world. Check it out! I have Aurelia and freaking McBurn as playable characters here. I love this corridor, man, one of the best parts of the game, and the entire post-game takes place here, and yes, I played through it, and yes, it's very, very worth it. Shall we talk about the bad now? I've been praising to death this game so far, but there are some bad things to it and some I'm not sure how I feel about. First and foremost, I am not going to deny that the story is just fan service as well. It is greatly written, don't take me wrong, but it's Crossbell all over again, pretty much Trails from Crossbell 3, a third game to those two. I love those games, but I would have preferred a more balanced plot between all three arcs. Yes, it does get to points where it focuses a lot on Rin, but only on him, not his entire party or the Erebonia arc. And it's honestly really insulting, as a Trails in the Sky fanboy, that Estelle and her gang didn't get the same treatment. They are merely supporting characters with some scenes exclusive to them in the Reverie corridor, but that's it. Why couldn't Estelle be the third protagonist? It would have been the perfect fanservice game, but because of that, it's only an almost perfect fanservice game. Yeah, anyway, that's just me, the Estelle fanboy, complaining about it. But wouldn't it have made more sense for her to be the third protagonist? I mean, come on, what the hell, Falcom? Going back to the main story, it really does feel like they wrote it just to have a big closure to the entire saga and put Crossbell, once again, into conflict. It's a good one, sure, but hard as they tried, they couldn't disguise it enough to hide the excuse to please the Crossbell Arc fans. Since this is a spoiler-free review, I won't spoil anything, but let me just say two things. One, some tweets here are kinda weird, completely senseless, especially connected to the main antagonists. And two, the cover of the game. This cover, look at it. Who the heck is she? Well, they do reveal who she is, but guess what? She only appears for like 5 minutes in the entire game. I won't say how or where, but it's kinda lame to put her on the cover and not any of the other important main characters. She is though a relevant one, but not for this game in particular, but for the series itself. In fact, she's almost irrelevant here. That's my dumbass rant for the cover. There's also some frame rate issues in some areas. This is just an example. When I move the camera, it lags a bit and struggles. It isn't terrible, but it can get annoying sometimes. I hope they release a patch one day to fix these issues. I don't know though if they are on any version other than the PS4 one I played. The one thing I'm not sure how I feel about is the phantasmal shards. You see, in the Reverie corridor you have these mini missions, small stuff you can complete by merely progressing and fighting or doing specific actions during battle. Your rewards are usually items, most of them used to increase experience points, but also the shards. Shards that are used to unlock a variety of things, like increasing the maximum brave points, the support party, add characters to the roster, add characters to the orders system, increase the maximum use of united fronts, so yeah, they're pretty useful. But if you pay attention to this system, and that of the ceiling stones too, actually, you'll find it's a bit similar to those gacha games. Now don't worry, this is not a gacha free-to-play BS game or something like that, but the mechanic kinda feels like one, up to the point of feeling, well, generic. Like the developers just wanted to add these features to give the player as many reasons as they can to keep playing. So while I partially love these features, I also have mixed feelings about the intention of the developers. Thankfully though, they only serve to improve the experience and offer something positive. Overall, this is what the third was for Trails in the Sky, but for the Crossbell duology, it's an extra episode to wrap things up, specifically for Lloyd and his gang. Oh well, and also Rin. The Reverie corridor does include more storytelling and wraps things up for other characters as well, so while the plot didn't disappoint me, it also didn't hypnotize me. Gameplay wise though, this game is a freaking masterpiece. In that area alone is the best, yes, the best Trails game in the entire series. But the last thing I need to say here is what some of you have already noticed. Yup, you need to play the entire saga to understand Trails into Reverie. It is, after all, the final chapter, and I strongly suggest you play them in order. That's all for today, guys. Thanks for watching.